Good morning. Today, I'd like to just keep it simple and spend the whole day reading. So I'm still reading The Place of Tides by James Rebanks. I'm almost done. I've just got like this much. The book is written in a very slow pace, so I've sort of been matching that feeling and reading it really slowly and just kind of picturing myself in the moment and enjoying that sort of calm energy. Before I go, I'm gonna journal a little bit and then do my errands and then go to a cafe and do some more reading there.
There is a life I lead in this city, hurrying to cut my teeth. I can take what I need to get by, doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart will show somewhere in the great unknown. When I return from the afterglow, will you carry me like I am whole again? Be together, take me back where I belong. I want it all.
I'm back home now from the cafe and I finished reading The Place of Tides. It was such a lovely book. It's a memoir written by James Rebanks and it follows the life story of Anna Masoy. She's in her 70s and basically it's about how Anna revived this dying tradition of eider duck tending, which many years ago on the remote islands of Norway, it was a tradition for the islanders to make a living out of tending to the eider duck, which are like a sea duck, and they come to the shores every spring and make nests, lay eggs, and then go back to the sea. So these duck tenders, they build shelters to help protect the nests from predators. It's sort of like a slice of life. It's very slow. You're living day to day with them on the island and seeing what it's like. And you start to get glimpses into Anna's past. So apart from the whole duck tending, another aspect of the story looks at the environment, negative effects that people have had on the environment, reflections on where we are as a society and how, capitalistic we are. And there's a part where they talk about how people have become made of metal, like having hearts of iron. And I really felt that because just on that daily 9-to-5 grind, sometimes I do refer to myself as becoming someone who has turned to stone. And when I have an extended period away from work, I feel like that spell has been broken and I feel myself again. So I really related to that. And yeah, it's a very healing, calming story. It took me a while to get through. I think it took me around a month or two to read, maybe a month or two. Yeah, very much enjoyed it. And now I'm ready to go on to my next book, which will be The Second Chance Convenience Store by Kim Ho-Yeon. It's a male Korean author and seems kind of lighthearted, but also has some maybe reflections on people and community. And I'm almost done rambling, but while my husband and I were at the cafe, we had some food, we had our lunch there and coffee, and we read there. I don't know if it's just my neighborhood where we don't have too many cafe options, so everyone sort of congregates to these few cafes. So whenever we're there, it's hard to find seating. It's really loud and, I don't mind the white noise of a cafe. I quite enjoy it, but whenever we go there, it's just a bit too chaotic and it's quite expensive. And I was just kind of thinking to myself, like, is going to the cafe overrated? It's not, but sometimes it is, you know what I mean? Like, I still really enjoy going to a cafe, and when I can go and it's kind of like the dead hours where there's not many people there, I think that's when it's the best because there's just a few people there. You still hear the hum and environmental noise of the cafe and you can still enjoy this, new cozy environment. But yeah, I was just kind of thinking like I should really enjoy my time at home more. And I think next time that's what I'll do, you know, have my little romanticized little home cafe time next time. While we were out, I was walking through this little area near the cafe and I took some photos and videos because I want to draw the streetscapes. I shared in my last video that I had started taking a painting drawing course online. I thought it'd be fun to kind of do some more practicing. I wanted today to be a day of reading, but it's more like a day of errands and finding time to read in between, which is, I mean, that's life. In a few minutes, I have to go head out to a dentist appointment. For that, I've made myself a cup of decaf coffee, just the way that I like. And I have some biscuits and some fruit that I'm gonna enjoy. It's a new day and I finished reading The Second Chance Convenience Store and I really enjoyed this one. It was quite unexpected. I wasn't expecting much. But yeah, I really like this type of story. It's very cozy and comforting, very healing. A different sort of coziness from The Place of Tides by James Rebanks that I was talking about earlier. Between the two, I actually prefer this one. If you liked the book Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and there's this show on Netflix, it was called The Midnight Diner. If you like that type of vibe, I think you'll really enjoy this one as well. With The Coffee Gets Cold and Midnight Diner, I really liked that balance of the storytelling pace, with these really just real everyday stories, and that, of course, really comforting vibe. I'll go into a little more detail about the story, so if you prefer not to hear any potential spoilers, then I'll add a timestamp so you can skip ahead. So the story starts when an old convenience store owner hires a homeless man to work night shifts. And with each chapter, you meet new quirky characters with really relatable stories. Chasing dreams, broken families, using alcohol to cope, feeling behind, fear of losing your autonomy with age. It looks at really real struggles, but at the end of each chapter and at the end of the book, it leaves you feeling really hopeful and with a warm heart. One of my favorite characters is Mrs. Yum. She reminded me so much of my mom in funny little ways because she's sort of this stereotypical Korean Christian woman, which my mom is too. But also in some sad ways, she reminded me of my mom because she's also an older woman with a struggling business. And even into old age, when you would expect it's the time for you to finally enjoy your life, you're still having to make sacrifices for your family. There's this part where they talk about Mrs. Yum feels like there's this distance growing between her and her daughter as her daughter, grows up, lives her own life, and chases her ambitions. She feels like her daughter is living in a world that she doesn't understand, and that she doesn't understand, and that a world she can't be a part of. And that just made me so sad. Like I wondered if my mom ever felt that way or feels that way. At the same time, at least for my case, not necessarily part of this book story, but it's almost inevitable. Like sometimes with the immigrant story, your parents struggle and they do everything to make sure that you live a better life than them. And they've succeeded if you have a better life. But sometimes, like for me, even though I'm living a better life, I'm not at a place where I can also pay for their life. You know what I mean? Anyways, I don't want to ramble on without, thinking about this too much, but back to the book. So another common theme throughout a lot of the characters is their toxic relationship with alcohol, and especially with my father's generation of Korean men, as I'm sure it is with other cultures too. It's very common. They use alcohol to cope with stress from work and the world. It becomes their escape, but it ends up isolating them, and physically it wears them out, which leads to poor performance at work, which leads to more stress, and emotionally with family or friends, it usually leads to a lot of strained and painful relationships there, and it just becomes this vicious cycle of drinking and loneliness and pain. Despite that really heavy topic, I feel like the author does a really good job at touching on that, but also balancing this really warm and positive vibe, which I really appreciated. I will say though, I wish it was as easy as it was in the book to quit drinking. Like the characters just kind of decide one day that they're gonna stop drinking and they replace alcohol with tea. And yeah, if only if it were that easy, but I do still appreciate the story and the hope and warmth that it, tries to portray. That being said, I think the charm of the author's writing and the story is, again, how he brings so much warmth and he humanizes these characters which you might kind of dislike, like Min-shik, who's Mrs. Yum's son. He's so selfish and annoying to read about, but at the end I still felt some empathy for him and I could understand where he was coming from. There were some fun lighter parts too, like this Code Brown situation was so unexpected, but it made me laugh out loud. And yeah, again, I think the book has a really good balance of these like heavy real topics with that comforting, healing, and just overall warm and light vibe. If you read the book, I love to hear which characters that you liked or disliked and your thoughts overall on the book, and if you have any other book recommendations as well. So I think I'm going to wrap up the video soon. I have started my next book, which is The Blanket Cats. I hear it's kind of a similar vibe to the Second Chance Convenience Store, also like the Murasaki bookshop. I haven't read that yet, but I think it's a similar vibe. So each chapter is like focusing on new characters and different stories, and there's this overarching thing that kind of connects them all together. I hope you enjoyed this video if you stick around to the end, and I hope your year is off to a good start. And yeah, see you in the next one.